In what seems to be odd to the fans, and Hollywood in the past is now normal these days, Ryan Reynolds, the beloved Deadpool star known for his humor and charm, has long battled a personal demon that few know about, insomnia. But this wasn't caused by late-night shoots or the pressures of Hollywood fame. It's rooted in his complex and strained relationship with his father, a former police officer. Growing up, Ryan's father was like a skin-covered landmine, volatile and unpredictable, leaving Ryan to tread lightly around him, never knowing when a wrong word or move would trigger an explosion. You just never knew when you were going to step on the wrong spot. And he was just going to explode, Reynolds once said. The emotional toll of this relationship led Ryan to adopt a defense mechanism, detachment. He recalls, "It was very easy for me to dine off the idea that my father and I do not see eye to eye on anything." The struggle intensified as a young man, with memories of a father who could be both distant and volatile, like the time he used to tie the fridge door shut as if to lock away a sense of safety. Now, as an adult, Reynolds acknowledges that his insomnia and inner turmoil were born from unresolved wounds, a byproduct of the emotional rift he once thought was insurmountable. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Masterpiece. Today, we're diving into insomnia. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or this is your first time here, I'm thrilled to have you join me. In this video, we'll be exploring its characteristics. Ryan Reynolds has long battled with insomnia, a struggle that stretches back years and has been shaped by the emotional weight of his past. While many people experience sleepless nights due to stress or external factors, for Reynolds, his insomnia runs much deeper, a reflection of unresolved emotional turmoil that began in his childhood. His insomnia didn't start in the chaotic world of Hollywood, but rather in his home, where he grew up with a father who, as Reynolds put it, was like a skin-covered landmine, unpredictable and explosive. This volatile environment set the stage for a pattern of anxiety and sleep deprivation that would follow Reynolds throughout his life, with its effects becoming even more pronounced as he entered adulthood. The root of Reynolds' insomnia lies in the tension he experienced growing up with a father who was both distant and emotionally erratic. As a child, Reynolds was forced to navigate an environment where he never knew when his father's explosive mood swings would strike. The unpredictability of this emotional landscape caused Reynolds to be on constant alert, a state of hypervigilance that would later contribute to his difficulty finding peace in his mind as an adult. He describes his father as a man who could be loving one moment and a landmine the next, and this emotional whiplash created an undercurrent of stress and anxiety that would mark Reynolds' life. This constant state of alertness was the breeding ground for his insomnia, a condition that would intensify as he grew older and faced the pressures of his career. As Reynolds entered adulthood, the deep-seated anxiety caused by his childhood continued to manifest in his life. By the time he was filming certain roles, including one where he spent days in a confined space, the toll of his ongoing insomnia had become undeniable. In interviews, Reynolds admitted that his sleep struggles worsened during this period, especially when he was forced to spend long hours in high-stress situations. The anxiety he felt both on and off set mirrored the feelings he'd experienced growing up, trapped in an emotional box of his own. "I definitely struggled with a lot of insomnia when I was working on this film," he revealed, acknowledging that the pressure of the role only magnified the already present feelings of suffocation and dread.
Stuff.
Any particular horrors that were the worst?
Boy, the snake in the pants metaphors notwithstanding was tough.
Was it actually a snake?
Yes, it was a snake. It was a snake that was more afraid of me than I was of it, but that was difficult. The last day was particularly tough because I showed up to set and there were paramedics on set. And I said to Rodrigo, why? And he said, they're here to make you feel better. I said, they're not making me feel better. And I found out that they were there because they had to close. That was probably the only time shooting I was all 6 sides were closed. One side was actually glass. And that's how we could see the sand kind of filling up. And one actress played all the roles that I was talking to, but the people I was talking to on the phone, for sake of ease, we were going to have 10 other actors there. So she could hear the microphone on my chest, and my heart rate accelerated in between takes, and I was having genuine panic attacks. I'd never really experienced that before. That's about 100 times that fast. And so she started to do this kind of esoteric exercise where she'd talk me down. I really started to freak out, and there was no way to get out. It took 15 minutes to get out of this thing because they had to unbolt the tops and everything, and I was losing my mind. I had about 80 pounds of pressure on my chest, and she started talking about meadows, and parks, and birds, and trees, and then at one point she said, and you're lying on the beach in the sand. And I said, let's go away from the sand. Let's get back to the meadows and those birds you were talking about. And she kind of talked me down, but that was the last day was pretty intense. I went into the box looking like me, and I left looking exactly like Dick Van Dyke.
This heightened state of anxiety and stress while working on the film wasn't just a result of the intense nature of the work. It was a reflection of his internal world. The act of playing a character trapped in a coffin, isolated and desperate, was not only physically draining, but also emotionally triggering for Reynolds. He found himself revisiting the feelings of being trapped not only in a coffin on screen, but also in the unresolved emotional wounds of his past. The claustrophobia of the role became a metaphor for the mental box he had lived in for years, unable to escape the anxieties and fears that had taken root in his psyche. His insomnia, once a nuisance, now became a more pronounced symptom of a deeper issue: the emotional scars of growing up in an unpredictable and tumultuous environment. The deeper Reynolds delved into his role, the more he realized how much of his own unresolved anxiety was feeding into his insomnia. The heightened state of panic he portrayed in the film mirrored the anxiety he had carried for years, stemming from his complicated relationship with his father. The film may have been fictional, but for Reynolds, the emotions it stirred up were all too real. His insomnia wasn't just a side effect of stress, it was a physical manifestation of the emotional unrest that had built up over a lifetime. The more he pushed himself into these intense, confined spaces, whether on screen or in real life, the more he began to recognize the toll it was taking on his nervous system. Over time, Reynolds began to understand that his insomnia was not just a product of his career demands, but also a consequence of his past. The trauma from his childhood, the inability to find emotional stability, and the emotional distance from his father all contributed to the ongoing cycle of sleepless nights. In his interviews, he candidly explained how his insomnia had become an unwelcome companion in his life, one that had plagued him for years and wasn't easily shaken. Spending 17 straight days in a heightened state of anxiety and panic, it's not very good for your nervous system, he said, acknowledging that his physical health had been affected by the deep emotional unrest he had never fully addressed. What made his experience even more complex was how difficult it was for him to find relief. Traditional methods of relaxation, like taking vacations or trying to unwind, didn't provide the escape he needed. Reynolds admitted that after the grueling film shoot, he tried to unwind by taking a vacation, but even then he couldn't escape the anxiety that lingered in his mind. I did actually go to the place I was supposed to be vacationing at, and I stayed for 6 hours and then just went home, he recalled. This attempt at escape, much like his insomnia, was a reflection of a deeper emotional issue. No matter where he went, his mind wouldn't let him rest. Through this process, Reynolds began to realize that his battle with insomnia wasn't just about a lack of sleep. It was a sign of something larger at play. It wasn't just the result of stressful roles or hectic schedules, but a reflection of his unresolved inner turmoil. His insomnia became a physical symptom of the emotional distress he had never fully processed. In many ways, it was a cycle that needed to be broken. It was only by confronting his past and his ongoing struggles that Reynolds could begin to understand the full scope of his condition. He needed to address the emotional wounds that had festered for years, the scars left by a father who was often emotionally unavailable, and the anxiety that had built up in his system. In the years following, Reynolds has become more vocal about his struggles with insomnia and mental health, understanding that these issues are not easily solved with external fixes. They require deep introspection and emotional work. As he's learned, addressing the root cause of his insomnia wasn't just about getting a good night's sleep. It was about understanding the emotional undercurrents that had been shaping his life all along. The sleep deprivation was just a symptom of the deeper emotional turmoil, and by confronting his past, Reynolds has slowly begun to reclaim his peace of mind. And there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful and learned something new. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to stay updated. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover next, make sure to drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.